Okie dokie. All right, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
All right, great. We are going to call our open session to order. It's 5:47 p.m. This is prior to our closed session. Do we have any public comment for our closed session items only?
Nothing on email.
Nothing on email, and there's no one here in person, so no public comment for this. Our next item is roll call. Jen, when you're ready, do you mind taking our roll?
Trustee Rodriguez,
Here.
trustee Donnelly,
Present.
trustee Edmondson,
Present.
trustee Jackson Miller,
Present.
and we heard from trustee trustee Dickinson that he would not be able to attend tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Great. With that, we're going to convene into closed session. So see you at 6:30. Oh, that's so.
There you go.
Oh, good. Yep. Got us all in.
Have cameras on the wall here. You gotta jump around.
Okay, you're good. All right, we're live. We're live. You are on camera, folks. All right. I am going to call our open session back into order. It's 6:38 p.m. and welcome everyone. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise if it's comfortable for you. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'll read our district mission statement, even though I'm not as fun as the students who do it. It's important for us to take it to heart, of course. Staff, students, parents, and the community help ensure that each child develops the skills and character necessary for lifelong achievement and responsible citizenship in a diverse world. Our next item is to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next is report out of closed session. The board had one item for closed session. And on the appeal of the interdistrict transfer denial, case number 2023-2402, on a vote of 4-0, the board decided to deny the appeal. Next up is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next up is public communications. I don't know that we have anyone in person here for our public communications. If so, now's the time. If not, we want to check and see if we have any public communications on email.
Sorry.
We don't.
I
Yes,
just got
and just
knocked off.
clarifying, these are public communications for items that are not on our agenda. So if there's someone following along who wants to comment on an agenda item, that'll be coming up. All right, thank you. We're going to go on to our standing reports and start with Michelle, Assistant Superintendent.
Hello there. So since the last 2 weeks I saw you guys, we've been working on closing the books since thankfully we presented our budget last time. Haven't had to work on the budget too much last 2 weeks, but we're working on closing. We continued our walkthrough at the school sites, which has always been very enlightening, very great. I love getting to see what we put on the list last year, what's been completed this year, what still needs to be completed. We did our walkthrough at Santa Cruz Gardens. Coincidentally, we all kind of didn't look at our schedules really great. And it's when the HVAC units were being actually put on. So it made it harder for students in the classrooms, but it was really fun watching them on the crane. So I'm not gonna lie, I watched them getting craned up and craned down, the old ones out and the new ones in. So that was fun to see at Santa Cruz Gardens. And really, that's just all that I've been up to in my area is closing the books down. It's, you know, with the kids gone, it gets a little bit quiet over on our side of the house. One other thing I did attend is we had a monthly COE meeting with my counterparts throughout the county, which is always great to hear what's going on in other districts and my job alike, and just getting updates on kind of the same things. So that was a really great meeting. Other than that, it's been pretty quiet.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I too have recently met with our county partners who have the same job as I do. And since the last time we met and talked about the LCAP the first time, it looks like the math framework is going to be adopted early and we're going to be able to see it this fall. So they're talking about how to roll it out with, you know, some professional learning for leaders and teachers. And so that's really exciting because we've been promised it for a number of years now. So really great to see that on the horizon. Summer school and ESY are doing great. Our staff, our leads, our kids are doing really well. I was able to be there last Tuesday for the day and had lots of really great interactions with some of the staff and kids, and some kind of grumbly, but it was first thing in the morning when I was asking them really important questions. So some of them wanted to answer, some of them didn't want to as much, but they're having a great time and they're planning for a field day culminating the summer program this year. So that's going to be exciting to see. And then last week I was able to attend the Mid-State Leadership Consortium for leading the launch for educational initiatives. And so I was able to work for 2 days with multiple counties, like 6 counties in our state. And these were the books that we were studying. And the author was there and she was fantastic. And so as I've dug into this one fully, not this one as much. This was like the temptress in the room. Like, we're not going to talk about this one, but you can read it. So once I'm done, I'm kind of going through those. I'll share those with our new leadership team that are coming in, and just kind of talking with our new principals that are going to be joining, and getting excited for their launch. So that's just what's going on over in my world. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very quickly for me, I just want to express my gratitude for everybody who's hand in hand in summer school. It's just such a great opportunity for those students and families. And also express my gratitude for all the work that goes on behind the scenes. This is the time of the year where a lot of facilities work is done without, really the public or anybody being aware of all the hard work that's being taken place to get ready for that school year. So it started early in the summer and it's continued. So I'm really appreciative of all that. And also just want to say thank you to SEA. We had a good negotiation session again yesterday. We have another one that we scheduled for later in the summer. So just their willingness to come to the table during the summer, during their downtime, speaks volumes about their dedication. And we really have found, as I said previously, a lot of common ground on language, and really just working on compensation, but compensation kind of in a different arena, not necessarily right now on how much, but on what that will look like, and perhaps making some possible adjustments to what the salary schedule looks like, not just in terms of the amount. So that's why it's taken a few extra sessions, because it's a unique approach compared to previous years, but very positive and very collaborative. So I'm really appreciative of that. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you. Next up is if we have any items from CSEA. I don't know if we've received anything written from them. Okay, well, happy summer to CSEA. We understand when reports can't be made in the summer, totally get it. I do see that we have Jamie McMillan, right, from SEA.
Yeah.
Welcome and thank you for being here.
So good evening. We have a great summer school and ESY program going. The STEAM class for New Brighton has been designing assigned items using bill materials and working with a virtual budget. They have come with some great products in the New Brighton School ESY class. Students have participated in the egg drop experiment, in which they tried to design the best way to prevent egg from breaking when it dropped from a second-story balcony. Classic, right?
Yeah.
First grade reports. Reports that students come to school every day happy to be there. They check in every morning on how they are feeling, and there hasn't been one negative question shared, even though they know it's a safe place to share if they aren't feeling positive. There's a great balance of academics, art, and movement. All grades are working on math concepts, reading comprehension, written response literature, and of course, having fun. Last Friday, we had a giveaway card of books from which students could choose from as many books as to take home as they wish, and each student received bubbles and free bowling passes. Next week, we'll have a field day on Thursday, and on Friday, July 7th, our summer school and ESY programs will come to a close. It's been so great to extend summer school. Choose my words again. It's been so great to extend summer school where it doesn't feel just like school, but more time to discover the importance and fun of learning. And if you walk on the campus, you'll see so many happy kids and teachers. Like subs come and they're just like, what? Like, this is amazing. Like, yeah, welcome. This is a great place. Negotiations continue to be positive. Of course, we had both bad news and good news simultaneously. The bad news being that Santa Cruz is now the #1 least affordable place in the United States to live. And the good news being that the governor and big budget were able to come together and agree to fully fund an historic 8.22% COLA for the coming year. Of course, 4th of July is next week, and we wish everyone a very safe and a very happy Independence Day.
Thank you. All right.
And then when I was walking out today, I heard someone's like, what's the priority? Like, I heard them like say, first prioritization is like to get the fields for like kid ready. And I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Oh, I'm so glad. We're all so glad that
Yeah.
our kids have this summer school opportunity. What a
Yeah.
joy. What a joy. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, have a great night. Thank you for being here. Next up will be trustee reports, and it being summertime, I know we don't all necessarily have anything to report, but if you do.
I have nothing to report,
Okay.
but I want to wish staff, it's not champagne,
Ah.
Happy New Year. So can you pass that?
Oh.
Oh,
Good stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
that tomorrow.
Friday. It's too early.
You know, my oldest kid's birthday is June 30th, and the joke was always like, boy, are we glad that we're not in, you know.
In the accounting world, yeah.
Yeah, it's important to us.
Yeah.
That's exactly. That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so, I'm not the report.
Same, yep, same. We all wish everyone a beautiful, happy summer. Happy summer, okay. All right, it's presentation time. We got through some of that beginning business quicker than usual. Michelle, would you like to kick us off?
I will. I think one of the other things we've been working on, but I wasn't going to steal Tyler and Rob's thunder from their presentation, is our wonderful work with Climate Tech over the summer and throughout the whole year and continuing into next year. So we thought this would be a great time. We've got some projects that are getting completed and will be completed by the end of summer. And this would be a good update time for the board, since we're not having, or I shouldn't say that, it's a good update time for the board. And so Rob and Tyler have joined us from Climate Tech to give you guys like a brief overview on what we've been doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, members of the board and staff tonight. Scott mentioned this is a really happening time of year for facilities and projects are going on. So much of our project, a lot of things are happening here. Our last update to the board was in February. A lot of things have happened since, but as you're seeing outside, there's a lot of activity now. So kind of want to give you an update of what's happened in the last few months, what's happening now, and what things are going to look like moving forward. Perfect. So little update here. This gives you a good update overall of everything that's going on, all the different categories of project types and scope types within the program and where each one's at. Several things have been done for quite some time here. Water, a lot of the LED lighting has been done for some time. Really, the only remaining work there is underneath the solar arrays as they go in, which you're seeing are going in all over the district as we speak. Electrical upgrades to go along with the new air conditioning that's being added, that's been completed. Now the units themselves are rolling out. As Michelle mentioned, the gardens, cranes lifting those units on the roofs, those are in and getting wired up right now. Main Street, the cooling tower is going in right now. All the units going on here at New Brighton. You're seeing them in cages. I've got some pictures of those here in upcoming slides. Those are going in. So as staff and students return back here at the end of the summer, all the classrooms on those spaces are going to have air conditioning. So big progress for a lot of those spaces. A lot of happy teachers, a lot of happy students as everybody comes back. And then one update here as well. So we mentioned the solar, you're seeing it at a couple sites. It's online and producing, and we'll have some pictures and charts here on that data at both the gardens and Main Street. New Brighton wrapping that this summer. SoCal Elementary next summer, likely with timing here. The backup generator here for the kitchen area and all the food storage. Ideally, we were looking at next year. We actually had a little bit of a bonus come in from DSA. They moved forward, approved us to actually hook up the generator gas line there. So instead of having to wait several months for that, we're going to actually have that expedited and done over the summer as well. So as of school coming back this year, full backup power for any issues that happen over there.
And just want to add, I believe the board knows, but that New Brighton Middle School, the PAC specifically is a Red Cross emergency evacuation center, which is really great to hear. We will now be fully generated.
You know what can happen in the summer with the climate? No,
Exactly.
Where is that located? By the,
In the CNS, the back cage
Oh,
of CNS, yeah. So it's fully protected,
Yeah.
twice protected.
Yeah, it's like it's got its own fence.
Yeah,
it's got a sound wall.
yeah, that too.
And so some pictures here, the next few slides, some updates. You've seen the irrigation ones before, some of the major electrical upgrades here at New Brighton, excuse me. The new switchgear that's gone in to support all the new AC systems that are going in. That's the new cooling tower over at Main Street as well. So upgrading that system with some replacements, some very old equipment. The windows you've seen here as well at New Brighton.
I know we love Steve.
Is there any pictures?
Couldn't be here with us, but he's here in spirit.
Yeah.
And then that's a good example of kind of what a row of the new air conditioning systems look like here as well. So cages around them protecting the units, but they're in and will be ready to go once staff and students are back here this fall.
And just as a side note, before Rob moves on, during our walkthrough with New Brighton, I had an opportunity to talk to the New Brighton principal, and we talked about what some new window coverings. That's our next project there for the interiors. Those window coverings are not so great, but they do use them as blackout curtains on the interior. But so we've talked about like what different kinds of blackout curtains. So what we decided on is there was a great interest in looking at if blinds could accomplish that.
Right.
So we're going to demo a classroom with some blinds and see how that goes in the sense of can they black out the same as a blackout curtain. I'm not very hopeful, but I thought the site wanted to see if that's possible. Yeah, kind of like that, but bigger. Because of you can see how tall the windows are. Yeah. And how they can lift them and what that would look like. So we're trying a couple different versions before we will settle on a final.
The vertical ones?
We're looking at both. And so I really appreciated the site's input in wanting to be able to look at something different and the opportunity to give them an opportunity to try some different kinds of blinds before settling on just this is what we're going to do.
Right.
So just so the board knows.
Yeah.
Moving on to some of the more visible, exciting stuff here. So this is the 2 arrays over at the Gardens as well as Main Street. So not only are they up, like what you're seeing here at New Brighton, but these have actually been online and producing for the last month and a half. And to that, we're getting production data back. So the district actually is hooked up with some monitoring software. So you can see the daily production. You'll be able to pull data from there and actually trend how the panels are producing. So as soon as anything may or may not happen to them, when an inverter goes down, you'll know immediately with this type of reporting software. So this is just a sample profile of the daily production over at the Gardens. This is actually last Tuesday, I believe, the 21st.
Great. Yeah.
Yep. So it shows
We
you.
have some that day.
Yeah.
And you'll see that on the next slide here through the June gloom. So this is an aggregate kind of as both systems went online early May, trending daily production at both. You get a shaded day. You see it in both sites going down on production, bright sunshiny day, full production at both sites. So this is, go ahead.
So are you saying there that together, like for the first column, that we're getting 1,400 kilowatt hours?
Production per day. Yep. Out of both arrays on that day, you got about
That's
1,500.
like what, 14,000
To convert to dollars?
hours?
Oh, hours. Effectively, yeah,
Wow,
1,500 hours of kilowatt production.
That's a lot.
So it's a lot.
You can see how high Main Street is trending as well. And I think that might have something to do with the fact that we do have that in that great big, huge open space on the field where they're getting a lot of that direct sunlight. And Main Street does have tendency to get less fog than we do right here. Yeah.
So before you jump from this one, so that's production. What's our load?
So these are designed for an offset of about 80% of
Okay.
what the load is for the campus, and they're producing at
Alright.
what that 80% design was.
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind though, with ELO and some of the extended learning opportunities too, though, your load has obviously gone up a little bit more. So it's probably between the 70 to 80% range, depending on the overall use of it. But we're seeing with all school districts, more extended use on facilities versus, the offset of renewable energy, just because that's what you have to do to have the kids catch up.
Okay.
And then moving on to some of the work happening this summer, you'll see the pictures on the left are actually here at New Brighton. Some of the units going in still, the wiring that goes associated with them, moving the electrical into the classrooms. And then you've got a couple of those units going in on the roof over at the Gardens as well. And finally, and most notably, everything that's happening here with solar. So that not only are the units going up or the arrays going up actually in the field, but you've got the rooftop units as well going on and being installed. And we're looking at later this summer, having those units online as well, offsetting the load that will be added here at that campus as all of those AC units come online. And that's the last slide I've got. So happy to take any questions that you may still have.
I'm sure sorry, I hopped right in there with a question, but sorry. I'm sure we've heard this before, but what is the estimate on when it would actually be online at New Brighton? Like actually getting,
So we've not scheduled the actual date with PG&E because it depends on when they'll come out and actually let us tie in.
Mhm.
But you've seen fundamentally the structure itself, the panels are up,
yeah,
final electrical wiring goes in on our end, and then it's really just scheduling with PG&E when they're available to come out. We have to shut everything down, actually have them validate the solar's working fine, and then let us go live on their system.
So you have to trench that, and then there's another thing of solar that we can't see here. That's.
The third array, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so you trench that?
Yep, and it's already been done.
Oh, okay,
They've already, that's kind of the first thing we do is we get the underground infrastructure in,
okay.
because that can be done even when school's still in session. And then we fence off everything, put the holes in the ground, concrete posts, structure goes up, and that really happens pretty quickly.
All right, and then the big question, so where's the gutters?
They actually are coming later.
Ah,
There will
Yep.
literally be gutters.
There will be gutters on. that.
Yes.
All right.
before the rain.
I would like- yeah. We did, just talking about how dependent we are on PG&E, when we had the electricity off at New Brighton, when they were doing the underground work,
Mhm.
was when we had the massive storms.
Mhm.
So they were scheduled to come.
Yeah.
But we got bumped.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would imagine, I wanted power up in my area, so I wasn't too sad about it. But yeah, we are very reliant on when PG&E is able to come out and work with us too. So, yeah.
Could you explain the gutters more? Are gutters going on the Main Street array as well?
So it'll be Main Street and here, yep, both
There'd be
sides.
gutters, And then that would reroute the drips, so.
Exactly. So instead of falling right underneath the panels or collecting kind of at the end of the row, they're gonna be funneled actually away from, and there's a drainage system that's not far from the Main Street. So it's gonna actually be routed underground to dump into that drainage system. And keep the water from anything on that hillside there.
Take out another section of the road, right?
Yeah.
With this El Nino.
And do people ever capture that rainwater?
Mhm.
Comes off,
Can't be, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
then what do you do with it?
water the field.
Flush the toilets. So, okay, so I had a different idea about the solar. You take the power and you store it? Or do you take the power and it goes right into the
Here it-
classrooms?
Here it immediately offsets the load that the district's using at that site, and the rest back feeds into PG&E's grid.
The rest back of what?
Back feeds into PG&E.
The solar power? Or?
The excess power, whatever you're not using at the time, if for some reason the site's load is less, for example, in summer. Anything that's excess of what the site's using goes back into PG&E's grid.
We don't get to like bank it and use it
Yeah.
in November when all the heat is on.
Well, essentially you do,
Yeah.
because you're underneath
Yeah.
N 2.0.
Okay,
Which
The
is
credit
great about
is
the
there.
timing of your
Mhm.
project, whereas a lot of projects moving forward from here on out are in
Mm-hmm.
the NEM 3.0, which doesn't do that as effectively. So all the
Mhm.
power being produced right now in the summertime,
Mhm.
you're using those dollar credits for the
Right.
wintertime use of your facilities when the sun's not as prevalent. So you are
So it is
banking
banked.
those,
It
but
is.
it's an account.
Financially, it's banked.
Got it.
Yeah.
You're not banking the electron itself.
Yeah.
yes,
You're
I
banking the
see.
financial credit.
okay, I like that. Good.
Okay.
It's like the
And they-
Vegas casino, huh?
So you guys hit the project right in terms of timing.
Timed it very well.
I was gonna say there was a deadline of April 15th. When that switch happened, right, from NEM 2.0 to NEM 3.0, where
Yeah.
the regulations changed, so we were right where we needed to be to maximize our benefit.
Thank you. Thank you, told me that before and not remembering it.
This, you're gonna have to explain this, but like a generator does that hold power? Are we?
So
No,
not,
generator,
Generator does not.
that's separate, so that's.
Generator separate, just pure backup power.
Right.
Actually, when the power goes out, the solar has to by, I forgot the code, but it actually,
Mhm.
rule 21. Turns off all the solar so that it doesn't produce and put power back into the grid and electrocute, somebody trying to fix the grid.
Oh, geez.
However, for your generator, that would be on basically standalone area and that would kick in and start operating. And it will switch over power to that little microgrid system.
Oh, so it's a microgrid. It's not that it is containing power and
Correct.
waiting to be.
Right,
Okay.
right. That's the
Oh,
backup
okay.
power. So as soon as
Correct.
power cuts off to that building, that immediately isolates itself and the generator kicks on.
Batteries just aren't there financially. like,
Yeah.
To make it work, especially for when you start looking at Red Cross use and emergency use, you want it for longer durations than just 2 or 4 hours. And so that's where the generator comes into play. It's not as sustainable, but it's what you need for that type of facility.
Thanks for explaining.
Yep.
Yeah, great questions.
It's also one of the reasons that New Brighton was chosen, one, because it's a Red Cross Center, and two, because our
Right.
central kitchen is housed there. So it's really important if we do have that we don't lose all of our kitchen at the same time.
I had a question. I think early in the presentation you mentioned maybe LED lighting underneath the solar structures. Could you tell us a little more about that, or I might have.
So that's for the parking lot applications there.
Okay.
So it'll be. I don't think the picture captures them in the gardens.
Typically one lamp and it's about 4 feet long
Mhm.
and it's underneath, underneath each area between the poles. And it just provides light underneath of that, especially you have to do it for parking, obviously.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice security
Yeah,
upgrade
so they're-
too. 'Cause
they're-
I don't think those lots had.
There were pole
Lighting in that
lights at the gardens, I believe, right? There were two there. One on each end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
one on
good.
each end.
Yeah.
So those got taken out to make room for the solar arrays, so lighting was added underneath it.
We did realize also too in today's meeting, I know had come up before, that the lights were not turning off at the gardens, and they've now isolated that, and that'll be
Figured that out.
fixed so that it'll now be going off in the evening, when that time frame in the middle of the night when I don't
Yeah.
think anybody really needs light.
Is that because of,
Hopefully, yeah.
is that because of the neighbors or?
It just would be,
The
in my,
motherships
if I'm
and
saying it
stuff.
right, kind of draining power and needlessly, right? If you're
Yeah.
having lights running all night
Okay.
long, you don't need that. So there's sensors on there that should shut them down at a certain time, kind of like our marquees.
Yep.
Our marquees go dark
Okay,
just to, because it's unnecessary to have them running. Yeah.
No time to go off, yeah.
so New Brighton, the installation of New Brighton, did anybody come forward with it? Go to New Brighton, watch the public? Because they were concerned about, the field.
There was, we did have some dog walkers who stopped and observed the cranes and the installation, but really that was.
But nobody who,
Robert and I went by.
yeah, so
Yeah.
there was nothing from the families
Mm.
about losing the field.
Nobody that
Okay.
showed up on the fields or during installation at any
Alright.
time, and we were in constant contact with the on-site, Fabian, forgot his
Yeah.
name.
And project manager.
Project
whoever,
manager,
yeah.
I'm so sorry, I'm like, it's not coming to me.
Sure.
With the project manager, and so daily I get updates, and we really, other than some people just, I guess, curious at watching the panels go up and down.
Mhm, mhm.
And so you can see from these that very little of the field
Right.
is impacted. And it's like right on the edge near the blacktop anyhow.
Typically, most schools have like a track that goes underneath of the panels and it shades a portion of it. A lot of the solar, we just did at Castro Valley Unified, or Castro Valley Elementary, it's going right over the track at most of their schools. So it's done quite often if you guys are thinking about that, or the community is.
Mhm.
That is very interesting you mentioned that, because the principal just came back from another school site and saw that underneath the panels at their
Wow.
school site that were on the field.
If you think about
And she was all excited and wants us to look into doing the 100-meter dash. Because it's basically the exact amount of space that they need, and it's on the other side,
Mhm.
so it wouldn't impact the track once it's built at all. Just a
Yeah.
secondary track,
Should be the
basically.
benches for the visiting team.
No,
Which we won't
oh,
talk about until DSA has left the building.
This- yeah, this-
Shots, but do we not need shots?
Yeah.
What was that jump thing I used to do? You
Yeah,
know,
the
Long
jab,
jump.
the long jump, there you go, the javelin, what's that one?
I know, I can see.
Not
the
those
kids
underneath the
running
panels.
and stuff.
All right, we're seeing opportunities.
Right, sorry.
Growth and expansion. We
Yeah.
like this. We like this.
Wait, so when are the gutters coming in, you said? Main Street
We're
and.
gonna have to,
We're still
Oh,
working on
that's
that,
your planning that.
yeah,
We're still
yeah.
putting everything together on our
Okay.
side, finalizing the engineering of it,
Okay,
because it's, now we have to consider DSA, so there's some challenges to it.
oh, okay,
It's coming together, and there's other places where we've done it, so we don't see it as an issue, we just bring it together.
okay. And the AC, when do you think that that's finished? Do we have a date on that, or?
For Santa Cruz Gardens, or,
No, I thought
the
it was-
gardens and here,
yeah.
Yeah.
and
both.
And you're right.
The gardens are working. And here we're wrapping them up. So it'll be
So
well before the school year starts.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Broadhurst thanked me immensely for after 35 years putting air conditioning in to the site that he left.
I was gonna say, it took me continuously having kids there for 15 years.
Yeah.
My youngest child just promoted out of the school, so now.
Now, yeah.
So Mr. Broadhurst and I, we know.
Picture together.
No, but boy,
No.
the way the weather has been going, thank goodness for our staff and our kids.
Yeah, Santa Cruz Gardens has been hit the hardest of all of our sites as far as the lack of air conditioning up there on that hill with no cloud cover. They really get hit hard. So this is, I'm so grateful. Like that, I think Rob can probably attest. The first two things I said, air conditioning at Santa Cruz Gardens and the windows at New Brighton.
Yeah.
Like whatever, like we got to get those in there.
First conversation, yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions from the board?
Just I want to thank you for the memo write-up. I thought that was very good. It gave a great picture of what we're doing and where we're going
Yeah.
and why.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Are those skylights? Little domes or
On the left,
no, just on top of the roof right there.
no, it's the sun tubes
Yeah.
They're solar tubes. Yep.
go into the classroom.
Those are on the new buildings and they're, I guess, like a skylight, right? They're the tubes that come out.
Yeah.
They're almost like a
The
sky.
intent
Okay.
is to be a
Oh,
pretty
okay.
focused, reflective skylight that
Yeah.
concentrates as much light as possible into that one tube and then disperses it into the room.
That's why a lot of those
Oh,
classrooms
okay.
don't have to have their lights on. A lot of them
Okay,
keep them
yeah,
off.
all right.
Great design.
Yeah.
And the panels are staged around that. They're not going to be covering any solar tubes up.
That's good.
Yeah, so that's tracking there, okay.
You know, it looks like it'd be hard to skateboard on that. either.
God, I hope so.
So those tracks aren't for ramps? No.
It's a half pipe.
Yeah. All right, well, I hope our YouTube viewers are enjoying the show. If we don't have any other questions, I'm sure y'all might enjoy getting on with the rest of your
Yeah.
evening, but thank you for a thorough, helpful presentation. It was good to see you both.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all.
Great to see you all.
Oh, thank you so much. I was absolutely gonna
Yes,
check and see
sure.
if we had any questions on it, but no, we don't.
No,
Yeah.
we're nothing out of yet.
And there's no one else here in public to enjoy, but they'll watch it later.
Thank you
Okay.
both.
Thank you all.
so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
See you guys.
For
Take
coming.
good care.
But
Yes.
Good summer.
Oh,
Just say, I was gonna say, you just need to like basically yell out things.
Yeah,
She'll-
thanks.
Leave it there. It's fine.
Yeah, there you go.
The Wizard of Oz, but-
Yeah.
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 All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. Now on to the big June action items. First up is to consider approving the LCAP.
Well, thank you. So, first, I'd like to thank the board for indulging, the time we spent, at our last board meeting going through the LCAP and lots of questions and lots of good probing. And now it is time for, me to make a recommendation to the board to approve the LCAP. It is, due, to our county, before July 1st and then to the state. And so this is the time. So this is my recommendation to approve the LCAP for 23-24 school year.
All right. Thank you very much. I know we had a good conversation last time, but if there are any other questions or comments from the board? No? Okay. Thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
the process works very well with giving us enough time to look through everything, have a good
Yes.
conversation, and I think us not having any questions or having folks here with lots of questions really speaks to the fidelity of the work and the process. So,
We really asked a lot of questions last.
yeah,
time.
we did, but
Thank
that's
you
the
so
way to
much.
do it, right? So, yeah,
And
absolutely.
then now I know how far San Francisco is from the county. 75 miles, you know, it's like, oh, this is LA. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we don't have anyone here in the public to ask any questions. I'm gonna guess we don't have any on email. We don't have any questions on the LCAP on email. So with that being said, do I have a motion to adopt the 2023-24 LCAP?
I'd like to make the motion to adopt the LCAP, the 22-24.
Get all the words. Thank you. No. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ted. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Thank you so much. Now I just have to scroll through some pages.
I know, I'm like, okay.
So yeah, someone, yeah, whoever finds the next page first, please do let me know.
159.
Thank
50,
you.
yeah.
159. So the
Almost
next,
there.
yeah.
Right.
Well, we are going to consider approving the California School Dashboard Local Indicator Report. And
Thank
there we
you.
go.
So this too is an action item, also shared at our last board meeting. The local indicator presentation was given and also a copy of the report. The report is due at the same board meeting as the LCAT,
Yeah.
and that's why you saw them in tandem. Recommendation that I have for the board tonight is to consider approving the California Dashboard Local Indicator Report.
Any questions from the board? I assume with this, nothing changed since our previous version of the
Nothing
previous
changed,
conversation.
and I actually did a double check with the County Office of Education today, like, okay, this is what I did. I got my gold star.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you very much. All right. So if we do not have any questions or comments from the board on this one. We don't have anyone here in person with
feel
any
like I should
questions or comments.
ask a lot of questions.
Let Ted become positive, yes.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any on email though,
Nothing
while
on
we're
email.
waiting to see if Ted has any questions? No?
Nope.
All right.
Thanks for your work.
We all good, right? Absolutely, absolutely. End of June, can you believe it? Here we are. Well, with no other questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve the California School Dashboard Local Indicator Report?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Callie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll just scroll through just a few pages, on to,
174.
thank you. On to the other guiding star of what we do, to consider approval of the 23-24 final adopted budget.
Good evening. Yes, we had a very robust discussion at our last board meeting regarding the budget. I would just like to add two things since the last board meeting. One, in the last day, the final budget has been approved and it's going through its last bits of legislation, and it looks like they are fully funding the COLA at 8.22%, and that is what was presented to the board in the last board meeting because everything was going that direction. And there was no changes to that. One of the big things that they did mention was some pullback on the one-time monies that they were using to backfill. Still kind of taking them in a more creative way, but that we will get more money than the 50% basically as to what they had been proposing to reduce both of the art and music grant and the learning recovery grant. And so we will get additional funding back in those areas. Which is, yeah, I know that was really good. That was really the big thing that, and then they had some additional trailer language, not really somewhat fiscally impacted. A couple of them being on ELOP. They had proposed some requirements that any third parties that we used had to be licensed as a childcare center. That did not make the cut. And I think they're pulling back on some of the universal TK facility funding for building of new TK classrooms or kinder classrooms for schools that didn't have any to begin with. Some of that funding and allocation has changed. Nothing that would directly impact our budget, but that's just kind of a few highlights. And then one additional document that's been added is on the docket. It's on page 265 of the docket. It is called the 23-24 Budget Adoption Reserves. Everything on this page I presented to the board in my presentation. However, Ed Code requires that I literally fill this form out and present it to the board.
Sure.
So there isn't anything in here that isn't already in the multi-year projections or we discussed at the board meeting in regards to our reserves. But this is the Ed Code approved form that needs to be sent to the county that I missed attaching from the last board meeting. And that's the only change from the last board meeting. And
I have a question.
Yes.
So they're calling it pullbacks and not reneged?
Clawbacks.
Mm.
Yep, they're not going to claw back as much as they had initially said that they were going to. One of it is they're literally not going to claw back as much of the discretionary block grant, and for the learning recovery, they are taking back. They're going to claw it back, but they are going to give it back to us starting in 25-26. they will start to give us the money back. And so it's, like I said, it's a more creative way of getting where they needed to go without the governor having to dip into the rainy day reserves.
Is that enrollment based?
Right, yeah. I'm sorry.
Is that enrollment based?
I'm sorry.
The grant money, is that based on ADA enrollment?
It,
or-
it was, it's, both of them are based on a factor, but that factor wouldn't change. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. Anything now could change because
Right.
I've never seen them, take back money we already got. So, but no, those are factors that are based on a demographic population within the district that generated those funding mechanisms.
Okay.
So I humbly ask that the board approve our budget tonight, the 23-24 budget.
Thank you. We don't have anyone in public here to ask any questions. Do we have any email questions on this item?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Any other questions? Okay. These they're good. Thank you, Michelle, to you and your department for all of the incredibly hard work you put into the budget
Yes.
and making sure that we understand all of the facets of the budget. So with that, I'm gonna ask the board if we have a motion to approve this budget.
I move.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll-
Do you want me to second? I'll second,
yeah.
sure. I'm like, I will second. All in favor? Aye.
Hi,
Any opposed? All right, we've got a budget.
Thank
Thank
you.
Okay, next up is to consider, and this is on what, 266 of the docket, to consider approval of an MOU with the City of Capitola After School Rec Club.
Awesome. So just a little bit of a history is when we were in the throes of the pandemic, we were really searching for ways to support families that were trying to figure out how to work and take care of the kids when there was no school. And I always like to acknowledge that that was a challenge that the city of Capitola really stepped in and partnered with us and tried to find a solution. And at that time, they started what was called the out of school time, which is where students could go and essentially be supervised by somebody while they did their virtual learning. And that was the genesis of what is now the After School Rec Club. And even after the pandemic subsided, the city found meaning in partnering with us on this, on the all-important subject of childcare. We found a very meaningful one because we know that it's a need in the community for families. And two, it's nice to, even though CKC has been a fantastic partner and continues to be a fantastic partner, it's nice to have choices. And so we're very proud of that partnership, very proud to provide opportunities for families to receive much needed childcare and with multiple options. Very thankful to the city of Capitola for their continued work. And with an equity lens, both agencies find it very important to make sure that there's subsidized rates for families who need that. As such, we would like to contribute, we would like the board to consider contributing $30,000 for the upcoming school year to support those families that need that. And it goes hand in hand with a lot of the work that we're doing with our ELOP program anyway. I'm proud of it because ELOP, there's an opportunity for ELOP to be easily implemented by only going out to third-party agencies and kind of letting them carry that water. We went about it the other way, using our own staff and finding more enrichment and intervention opportunities. This just happens to be a natural program that we already have in place that is a good partnership with our current ELOP program, but it wasn't a case of the tail wagging the dog. It was something already in place and fits in with after school enrichment and childcare. So with all of that out of the way, I would like to ask the board to consider approving a $30,000 contribution to the program.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Is it at different sites or is it at one site?
It's housed at New Brighton, but serves Main Street, Soquel Elementary and New Brighton.
Is this a program where the students are bused after school?
Yes,
Oh,
from
that's
the
such
two
a
elementaries.
great
Yeah.
Feature.
Yes, yeah, because transportation, right? It's like, yeah, I can take my kid to daycare, but I'm at work.
Yeah,
Right, so they kind of helped us answer that question in a way we hadn't been able to before.
yeah, wow. Yeah, it's great.
So is this restricted?
The funding?
Yes.
Yes, it's from the ELOP program itself.
No, to this money, this 30,000, is it restricted only to scholarships?
Yes,
Okay, so no salary or
No,
nothing.
no.
And then is there carryover?
They used up.
Oh,
yeah.
no, yeah, this is
Quickly.
a,
No,
yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah,
can they?
this is a small percentage of their
Right, right.
overall budget, so no, they don't ever have any carryover.
Okay,
And families apply for this if they need assistance. Is that
Yes.
how that works?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I'm so glad we can offer it, especially, and before we had ELOP, just opening up opportunities for middle schoolers. I remember as a parent, that shock of like suddenly having a sixth grader and, they need somewhere safe to be after school and there aren't a lot of options. And the more opportunity we can create for kids to build connections and, and get enrichment and learn new skills, the better. So I think it's a great program and I'm assuming this is already in the budget. So that's not a concern. Any other questions from the board? No? Okay, we do not have anyone here in person still. Do you have any email questions on this one?
No one on email.
All right. Well, with all that, do we have a motion to approve the MOU with City of Capitola After School Rec Club?
I move.
No, go ahead. You got it. I did the last one. I'll second that.
Okay, we got Phil.
That's a good
Phil
program.
and Ted's
Great
excellent
program.
first and second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. Okay, next up is consider approving the 23-24 contract with Nicole Anderson and Associates.
So we've talked a lot about why equity became a focus in our district and how how that came to be. And so with that kind of as a foundation, during that time that it came to light that we really needed to have a specific focus on equity, our district identified Nicole Anderson and Associates as a group to work with that brought in some expertise, having worked with other districts and other agencies and having presented at many conferences and written articles and just having an expertise in this area. So we wish to continue that work for one more year in an official capacity with Nicole Anderson. And I'll just try to give a summary. You have the long contract there and the proposed work to be done next year. But several factors have gone into prioritizing equity as a part of our district's professional development. That really came to light, if you remember, when SEA wrote a letter requesting as much. And, gone on record many times saying that's like the best gift that a superintendent can have, right? Like this is not us trying to say everybody in the district should be focusing on this. This is coming the other way saying, please help us focus on this and improve. And so we continue based on that initial charge. Nicole's work is really kind of gathered around working to change an educational system that was not designed to yield results for all students. And we've worked a lot on understanding that in the last few years, is that the system that we're trying to change the very system that we work in. It wasn't originally designed to serve all students. How can we change that system while we're working within it? That's a very complex undertaking, and why it's been so helpful to have a consulting group like Nicole's to help us. As I said, she's a recognized expert in the field, along with her strong team of fellow experts. So the foundation so far of her work has included a discussion and study and the common agreement. So the common agreements that we've worked with for the last several years are staying engaged, being willing to experience discomfort, speaking your truth, and being prepared to accept a lack of closure. And I always call that like the no check boxes approach. And that was something that was very clear from the very beginning, that we all realized that this work is not something we can say, hey, it's been a year and a half, we've done equity, now we can move on. This is a lifelong journey for the individuals engaged and for us as a system. And we've really embraced that approach. Previous work with Nicole and her team has yielded some important results in our district. I think we can speak to that as a board team, as a governing team, and the work we did around the governance core, which was both board work and governance in and of itself, but also that work with an equity lens and having some real meaningful discussions around that. As an administrative team, in various capacities, the work with Nicole has been meaningful. I would say, especially in examining implicit bias. Nobody walks in as a leader in a school system and says, yeah, I don't want all students to achieve. Everybody says we want all students to achieve, but this work forces us to go deeper and to say it's not just having that superficial approach. It's like really examining it. Even if our intentions are good, You know, what in our makeup, what in our upbringing, what in our past maybe has created some biases that we're not even aware of. That's really tough, important work that Nicole and her team have helped us with. Out in the field, doing equity walks this past year was really meaningful, and being able to get into the school sites and into the classrooms in a non-threatening, non-judgmental way, using a common tool, the equity walk tool, that can allow us to not just say we want to do equity, but to really define and label what that means. And then, of course, to work with our racial justice task force and the 3 subcommittee focus areas of student discipline, diversifying our staff, and curriculum instruction, all with an equity lens. I would just remind you that all of this work has been supported with the research and an emphasis on the Anchor article titled "The Water of Systems Change" by Peter Singhi, which identifies the following 6 conditions of change: policies, practice, and resource flows at the structural level, relationships and power dynamics at the relational level, and mental models at the transformative level. Obviously, this is deep work, right? That can't be attempted to be addressed in a superficial level, which is why I'm recommending to the board that we continue our official work with Nicole and her team for 1 more year. If the board approves that, there will be a continuance of the work we've started, as well as diving into a book study called The Cultural Proficiency, a Manual for School Leaders. There would also be customized site support so that Nicole and her team could work with each principal and their leadership team on next steps on our equity journey at each school site, really digging down into the finer levels. And community and student listening sessions, engaging historically marginalized groups, and learning how we can continually improve in supporting those groups. It should be noted that we recognize that our work with Nicole does not and cannot exist in a silo, and that by engaging leaders at all levels of the organization, we make connections with all the work we do. That's just one example. Putting equity at the top of meeting agendas has been one simple example that we've really embraced across the district. That was kind of like an aha moment for us when that was suggested to us. But it is one of those things often, like at the end of a staff meeting or at the end of an ADCO meeting, to say, you know, we have, like, we're going to do this equity-based activity. And oftentimes you run out of time. And so now we put those at the front, and we try to put our money where our time is, time being the most precious resource. Funding wise, if the board approves this contract, I thought you would be interested in that. So we use our Title II professional development. And again, this being a area of professional development that has been prioritized by, you know, multiple groups in the district, most notably our teachers. And if we need to dip into a second fund, it would be the Educator Effectiveness Grant, which also obviously is targeted for professional development. So those would be the 2 funding sources and not our general fund. So there's all that background that I asked the board to consider approving this contract.
All right, thank you. Questions from the board?
That's great to know where the funds come from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad that it's very much for this work. Yeah. I just have one concern because so one of the things that she's bringing to us this year, which I'm very happy to have her support with the listening sessions, because that's going to be challenging. That is because, you know, how do you allow people that space to open up? And then when you get their answer, what do you do with it? So when I looked at the dates of, and really, I mean, because we're the board and she's working with us for the 3 dates, just I would maybe ask that we could look at meeting with her after some of the listening sessions to really take advantage of her expertise with that, because that's really, you know, since we're extending the contract, I just really want to get that nugget from her of how do we take that, you know, that knowledge that she has to apply it, since we're, you know, going another round. Like, let's maximize it. If we're gonna go again, let's really get the most.
Well, the dates are certainly flexible, you know, as much as both parties, you know, calendars agree. That's always a little bit of a calendar dance. So, but I would also say that the work in developing both questions and identifying the groups will come from the Racial Justice Task Force. And so there'll be deep involvement with that group in the before, during, and after of listening sessions. And, you know, whether it's with Nicole or, you know, Shelley, or, you know, another member of the team, that work will be guided, and it won't just be like you had your listening sessions. So what? It's like, so what are you
Yeah,
gonna do with it
yeah.
is also always the question, right? And so, and I think your point is really well taken, you know, it comes back to one of those agreements is being willing to be uncomfortable. And I've said from the beginning, we're probably gonna hear some things we don't want to hear. I think we're gonna hear a lot of great things, but I think
Yeah.
we're gonna hear some things that are uncomfortable. And I think the foundational work we've done in these past years has made us ready to not take that in like a defensive way or any other way besides like, we can always get better.
Yeah, it's great that the calendars.
So I'm following up on those. Are those gonna be constructed so it's like stick your dot next to the idea kind of thing? We did this once before.
Yeah.
We did this once before and we ended up with, I don't know, 50 or 60 things
Mhm.
that we committed to do all of them.
Mm,
Because we
Overcommitted.
didn't prioritize. And then,
yeah,
of course, a lot of unhappiness.
yeah.
When, well, of course, we couldn't do that.
An
So-
interesting question. I would say two things. I would say some of that work that you just described is embedded in all the LCAP input that goes in to that process, right? So there's already a lot of input that, you know, outside of this particular brand of equity work, there's a lot of input happening in the district for that very purpose to prioritize
Okay.
our needs. But you know, Nicole and Shelley are both, you know, very in tune that LCAPs are what drive districts, right? And it's mentioned in the plan that way. And so short answer, no, it's not gonna be just like dots and then what do we do with it? Like the real gist of those is to hear what these folks have to say, right? And that has to happen, I think, in a little bit more of an organic way where questions are really thoughtfully posed and then a lot of listening versus just collecting some dots.
And that's fine, as long as we have a response for why we didn't do what you, because there's a disconnect between hearing,
Mhm.
I want to hear what you have to say, but the deliverer of the message, I think, has an expectation is that you will do what I just said.
Yeah, no, there's accountability. And I think in this work, it's kind of like equity work in general. It's not gonna be as easy to say as like, we're gonna get a computer in every kid's hand or something that's tangible, right? It's gonna be some kind of written summary, some kind of messaging out,
Alright.
and then lots of years of working on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Because, you know, there's been hundreds of years to get us to this place. Not just here, but there's a
It's
society.
because we disappointed when we didn't meet everybody's expectation.
Well, there's probably trends too, and then there's probably trends.
It was everything from plants out there to what the whiteboards look like. I mean, and oh yeah, we'll do all that.
Well, this particular thing that Scott was talking about with the student interviews is already in our LCAP, because that was part of our 3-year plan from the beginning. So it is a commitment that we've already made. We're just following through with the next step of it.
And from racial justice task force meetings that I've attended, from what I think I understand, the subcommittees are working on the sort of what information are we hoping to gather from these listening
Yes,
sessions?
yeah.
So that's coming from that group who's been working on the issue for, 3 years now.
Right.
That'll help inform Nicole's work in the listening sessions. Then it goes back to the task force for processing. I mean, we of course will be updated on that, but it'll be nice that it kind of comes back to that group who
Right.
has been doing the work, has, designed the questions, and then recommendations ultimately, if I'm incorrect, that will come from the task force to the board.
Yeah.
So lots of layers of accountability and involvement. Yeah. So
And then she talked a lot about the cultural proficiency book study process. So is that a book that everyone's reading, or is that a process that she's teaching us about reading books?
No, I would just say that it's based on a book study.
Okay.
And there's a process within the book of,
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
breaking down what does culture mean essentially.
Oh, okay.
Not broader than that, but essentially, yeah.
And then did you get feedback from the community about, is there any, maybe people feel like they need more time with her, just looking at the whole calendar, or? Cause she's working across the board. I mean, she's doing site support, AGCO.
Yep.
District PD, she's working with us, with the. Like, but it got kind of dispersed, her time got dispersed with all the people that
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we've tried to maximize her and her team as much as possible, and ever since we've done the work, we've tried to do it at all 3 levels. So that, and of course, you guys are great, but there are instances in other places where staff or schools get really excited about this kind of work, and then they hit a roadblock, either at the administrative and or board level, right? And I think we've been really intentional about moving in sync, and so we want to continue that.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, any other questions, comments from the board? Excellent. We don't have any questions from anyone in public. No, nothing on email.
Nothing on
right?
email.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the contract with Nicole Anderson and Associates?
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Exciting.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, you know, and kudos to us, like not every board really, I mean, like it's, we're all doing the work, everyone's doing the work, but not every board goes, you know, this deep and makes this many
Mhm.
commitments to extra meetings, extra book studies, and acknowledging that folks all across the district are doing the work, but not every board engages in this way, so thank you guys.
Thank you.
Sounds like another golden bell.
We gotta work on that.
Yeah.
Thanks for always reminding us.
Can we squeeze one
Just
more
saying.
hour into the contract for writing?
Well,
Yes. I'm sure she could write it in an
Nicole, are
hour.
you watching this?
Yeah. Okay, onward to consider adopting a resolution for the CalShape program grant agreement. Ventilation edition.
Yeah. Ventilation, very important. Yes. At the last board meeting, I brought forward to the board to approve the plumbing side
Mhm.
of the CalShape grant, or AB 841. There is referred to as both. Now I'm bringing before the board the ventilation side. This is slightly different. In both cases, a resolution needs to be passed by the board in order to accept the grant funding. And that's step 1. Step 2 is the acceptance of the contract with the company that we're working with. One that they are going to make sure that we stay in compliance with AB 41 requirements. And that requirement is a study that needs to be done on what we've done. And so that contract will come next. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But in this case, where it's slightly different than the plumbing, we had not done any plumbing upgrades. So the contract, when we took plumbing, was for the contract and the contract to do the work itself. In this particular case, our work with Climatech, one other bonus is we have already, through the upgrade of all of our HVAC systems, have completed and fulfilled all the requirements of this grant for the ventilation side. So they do the completion of the study, and then the remaining amount of money stays with the district that we can then use to continuously upgrade our HVAC systems and purchase goodness, it went right out of my head. Filters.
Welcome to
Really
my
need,
life.
I know. You know, you just flow in and then it's just like, boop.
Mhm.
Ventilate filters for all of our either the smaller ones or our bigger ones. So it's open to anything, which is great because we accomplish both. So step 1 is if I would ask the board to please accept the resolution and approve that so that we can accept the grant funding that we've been approved for, which is $378,870.
Okay. Questions on the resolution part of it?
278 of the docket.
So, I'll wait till we get to that item.
The contract, yes.
All right, right, so right now we're just on the resolution piece.
So just to like understand this on a basic level, we're awarded money. It doesn't come out of, does it come out of our pocket? We're
No.
awarded money, but we just need to use certain businesses and then we can get the money, but we just have to use the certain businesses.
Businesses.
That's kind of
The gist of it, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the part which is nice now is that when AB 841 came into existence originally, the original grant parameters were districts out of your own pocket, out of your own general fund, you could spend up to $1 million to do all of these studies that have to be done before we'd even tell you if you qualified. So some districts did that and they did lots of studies and then found out they didn't qualify for anything.
Yeah.
And so that came directly out of the general fund because there was no other way to pay for it. At the time, through our discussions, we decided and working with Climate Tech, it was not in our best interest to put forward those funds because most likely districts with a higher poverty level, districts in greater need, they are going to receive that funding first. And so instead of taking the chance of the district pocketing or out pocketing money that we may never see again, we just kind of decided to hold off on it. Through round 1 and round 2, basically they found that districts, all the money was going to no district because nobody was qualifying. It wasn't doing what the grant, what 8841 intended, which was to upgrade HVAC systems for better health and plumbing for better health. And so I think they kind of took a look at that. They did some revisions to 841. And now, yes, you still do have to have the environmental studies and you still have to have the studies of your sites to see where you fall on the funding level. But the thing of it now is that's all one. So if like in this case, we qualified for the $387,000 because we did the study, because we contracted with a company and we'd already fulfilled that. So we get the extra. So before it would have been, well, you paid $206,000 out of pocket. Sorry, you actually don't qualify for anything. So too bad. So now the guarantee with the way the structure is set up now is they only get paid if we get paid. So if the grant funding doesn't come to be, then the district is out no money because the contract specifically states it's only if we receive the grant money, which is in their best interest to make sure they file all of our paperwork properly. So everybody gets paid. Yeah. And then this is the company. And like we kind of talked about with the plumbing, they contract out to different contractors, local, these companies, they work with all different kinds of subcontractors when they do this kind of work. So, but the resolution part, and as you can see that's attached to it, that is the study that was done. You can see the number of units, filters, monitors, things like that, which were, like I said, we were able to accomplish through our work with Climate Tech over the last couple of years.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So I think you said that $206,000 doesn't come out of the 378.
It will for the next agenda item. The 378 is the total grant award of that 206 would be granted to the company for doing their part of the
Oh,
work.
okay.
And the remaining balance would stay with the district and we would keep that in our facilities program to continue to pay for ventilation upgrades. And so typically what would happen like on the plumbing side is, oh, you didn't do it. So now you have to spend the remaining amount of money to upgrade everything. Since we don't have to, it'll just be maintenance now for us.
So basically we'll have 179,000.
A lot of filters.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? No? Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I'll make the motion. Do I have a second to adopt the resolution? Callie second. We'll take a roll call vote when we're ready.
Trustee Jackson Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Edmondson. Aye. Trustee Donlin.
Hi.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Aye.
And we have one absent. Okay, thank you very much. Next up. Scrolling through a very
305.
long contract. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was nothing
Oh,
from the public.
nothing
Yes.
non-public and nothing in
Yes.
email, right?
Nope.
Thank you very much. I went a little too fast.
Yeah.
Next up, to consider approval of the bid contract for KFI engineers.
This is the one you have a hard copy of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. As much as I do like the contracts with our lawyers.
Right. Yes.
This is a different kind of contract I'm asking you guys.
So
to
for all of our
approve
YouTube viewers following along, this link, this is at a separate link on the board website. Because
Yes.
it was in a different place. So there we go. We've got to consider approval of the bid contract for KFI. Okay.
So KFI or LifeWing is the company that we've been working with. They're registered to do this work. They are a company that specializes and works with the state government associations that 8841 is governed by, air quality control and all of that. And so they are, like I said, they have basically Janet Lindenbaum has worked with the two companies and they have done all the back end paperwork for us. And then we'll do all the final paperwork so that we receive our final addition of the grant amount. The resolutions are approved, so they go on, you'll get it, we all get initial 50% payments, and then after all the work is completed, then the state will release the second, and then that's how the contract will be paid through. And you have a copy of the contract itself that delineates the services that are being provided.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Yeah.
So I just want to be clear that this is not to have any actual physical work done, just to have the paperwork for a plan.
The paperwork, the filing, and the actual evaluation that needs to be
Right.
done and submitted. Yes.
Okay. And then we then cross our fingers that they'll fund that.
No, that is all, that is part of the 387 that we are granted. So,
$206 just to get the
Yeah.
paperwork.
yes,
And then we're hoping that the actual work is
Yeah.
what, $172,000?
no, in this particular case, Life Wing is doing the paperwork, the filing, and the walkthrough and the evaluation. We've already complied with everything that 841 requires, so we get to keep the difference.
Right, but with that difference, then we actually have to use to change pipes and stuff.
No,
Mhm.
we've already done, that was all done through Climate Tech, so that work was already completed through our work with Climate Tech. And so so we lucked out very much. If it wasn't for Climate Tech and their support to help us get this couldn't have been done. The deadline was, we had maybe a 10-day turnaround to meet the deadline for this round of funding, which they were great to help us with. And so, yes, this is all money that can be put back into our facilities program to support our ventilation, but nothing that is, there's no requirement left to spend this money on anything specific other than the routine maintenance and upgrade.
It's a good way to end the year.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, that's a lot of filters.
There's a lot of filters, yeah.
But there are a lot of filters and we
Yes.
know filters go through their cycles.
Yes.
So how wonderful to have money earmarked for that. That's
Yes.
not taking away from other opportunities.
We change all of our filters district-wide 3 times a year, times every classroom, times every portable system, times everything that you see gets changed 3 times a year. So it is a lot of filters we go
So
through.
there are filters in those mini splits?
I'm not gonna say because I don't know.
I've never seen them, but.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the question, Phil. Any other questions or comments? Wonderings? Okay. The numbers sometimes are just mind blowing, but like, I get it. Big numbers,
Yeah.
but all in all, it means the district comes out ahead with more opportunity. So that's great. If there are no other questions from the board, we don't have anyone here in the audience. Do we have any emails?
No, I thought we'd end with one, but
No,
nothing
no
on email.
emails on this. Okay, well, with all of that being said, do we have a motion to approve the bid contract for KFI engineers?
I'll make the motion to approve the big contract.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, great. Last action item is to consider canceling the July 19th regular board meeting.
Should we dig in for a good 2-hour debate?
Yeah.
Well, big gratitude and thank you to staff for really working to make sure that any business that we needed the board to take action on got in on an agenda tonight or earlier. And because of that, we feel confident that we can wait until that August board meeting. And for those reasons, we'd like the board to consider canceling the July 19th board meeting as scheduled.
Thank you. I actually have a question. Do you think that there was any benefit in this particular action in having our June meetings on the 2nd and 4th as opposed to the 1st and 3rd?
Mhm.
Is that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that-
big benefit?
yeah, so that's something we'll continue ongoing from now
Yeah.
on, is having our June
Yeah.
meetings a little off cycle to give the staff more time to do end of year wrap up.
We'll continue to recommend that, yeah,
Okay.
especially, I mean, as the count, how it falls.
Yeah.
How the dates fall in June will matter, but.
Yeah,
we've already approved that for this coming year,
Right.
so.
very good. Questions from anyone else? Yeah, after we adjourn the meeting, we can talk about what we're all gonna be doing there. Summer vacation plans. Okay.
Yep,
Yes,
yes.
No one here is here in public to ask us questions about us. Do we have any emails on it?
Nothing on email.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to cancel the July 19th board meeting? I'll make the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
Any correspondence to report out on?
So I have to ask, is outbound correspondence something I should mention?
Outbound correspondence, tell me more.
Well, I had reached out to CSBA
Okay.
So do I report that?
Yes, if you would like to report that.
I'll
mean-
send you guys the email, but the topic is CSBA, AEC, generative AI topic, and what I want to know is. If CSBA is working on any policies for LEAs on generative AI in 3 areas: student work, academic staff work, and administrative staff work. Then I asked them if they knew anything about jobs, careers, interrogator and copy editor. And so Rachel responded saying they'll take a look.
Okay, thank you for that. Excellent. Next up, future agenda items. Anyone have anything to bring right now? All right, we know how to get in touch. Last adjournment, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Okay, I'll make the motion.
All right, I have a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, we are adjourned and we will see each other next in this setting on
Next year?
August 16th, next fiscal year. Which happens.
No.
All right, thank you. We're adjourned.